To go. Ready?
Yes, I'm good.
Cool. Me too. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Dr. Sterling podcast. On today's episode, it's going to be a fun one. We've got a good friend of mine on today who has one of the craziest journeys I've heard in a while in order to get where he's at today, and he's just getting started. He's currently a multiple business owner, a creative genius, and a design and production expert with experience in helping some of the biggest brands out there today. He is Robert Syslo Jr. But before we get right into this amazing episode today, do not forget to subscribe to this podcast, to my YouTube. Please follow along on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active. And share this episode with your friends so that we can get it out there, help more people, inspire more people, and just create an amazing culture. So we will also have a video-only segment at the end where he's going to share one of his wildest stories. So I'm excited to hear what that's all about because I don't even know what it is. But most of all, guys, enjoy the show and let's get into it.
Man, that was a beautiful intro. You got this down
pat. You like that?
Buddy. You're doing good. I like that.
Hey, I appreciate it. I'm just trying to do my part.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate that. You're a cool guy. You got a lot of good stuff going on, and any chance I get to collab with people like you, I get excited about it. So thanks for having me here.
Absolutely, man. And I've got to come visit you in Miami Beach because I haven't been in a while, but might have to come visit and check out.
Come on down. Come paddleboarding with me every morning, man. It's beautiful out there. It's waiting for you. I know you're a beach guy too, so.
Although I end up staying up a little late in Miami, so I don't know how early you go, but I feel like no one's on the beach when you go.
No, I'm out there by like 7. It's pretty early.
Yeah, that's what time most people go to bed in Miami.
Yeah, I know. They're like, I'm going to bed now. I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to work out. Bye.
Like this crazy guy.
Who's that guy?
Cool, that's funny. Well, first, I think it'd be a good place to start is at the beginning. So I actually don't know the full story, but I just know that your come up story is a little bit crazy. I kind of heard a couple of points of it, but I never have really talked about it even with you in person, even though we're friends. But I just wanted to know kind of how you came from where you were and then, ending to work at a major sales company and then to where you are today.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a pretty wild story. I went through probably the roughest 4 years of my life, really. And I had moved to Los Angeles and basically got involved in not a great relationship. And it really left me super devastated, so much so that I was emotionally impacted. I couldn't focus. I had a lot of familial issues as well. Like our family had a rough struggle. And so it just left me really confused and lost and not sure about myself, my direction. And it was so bad that I wound up homeless in Los Angeles.
Wow.
I was going to move back. I was living in New Mexico, then went to LA. Then I moved back to New Mexico. Then I went back to LA and I couldn't get any work. And so I went back to my old apartment, the street behind my old apartment, just because it felt somewhat familiar. And I would sleep in my car there. And it was a very lonely, painful experience for me. I had one friend who really kind of got me through it. But, sorry about that. I thought I muted that. So just kind of picking up where that was. So it was a really tough experience for me where I ended up seeking out help because I didn't realize that, domestic violence and things like that could happen to a dude. And there was no support for that. So I ended up linking up with a group down in Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm just going to take you through the whole thing, but mostly abbreviated. And I sold everything I had. They're like, come on down, do some work with us. Let's do some documentary film work. And I went. I sold my car. I took my suitcase, my camera, and that was it. And I moved to a random island that I've never been to before, third world country, and did a lot of work down there. Island hopped between Grenada and Trinidad for about a year. And then my visa expired. And I linked up with this guy, so it didn't really work out the way that I thought it was going to work out. I ended up getting fired and was out on the street again in a third world country. So I don't know if you've ever experienced that before.
No way.
I went to the U.S. Embassy and I said, guys, I need to get back. They're like, sure, we'll send you back, but we're going to take your passport. We're going to give you $50 to wherever you want to go. And I was just like, okay, this is horrible. So I ended up linking up with a guy who had like a Radio Shack kind of a thing down there. And that's where it really, life started to turn a little bit. It was just like this constant pounding and craziness. And what ended up happening was I got creative. I was like, okay, let's design, because I was always good with photography. I was always good with graphics. I just didn't know where that came from, but it was really good. And I started building his image on Facebook and redoing his website. And I started to make a little money, could buy some clothes. And he wound up sending me to Miami because my visa had ran up, my time in the country.
Yeah.
So we did a job here, and then after the job, I was like, okay, what am I going to do? So I'm living in this hostel in South Beach on $100 a week, which you've been to Miami, you know. Wow. That's impossible to do.
Impossible
food is like
anywhere, I think.
Food is minimum $20 a day. So I was eating $3 pizzas down at Pizza Rustica down there in South Beach, living in a room with 6 other dudes sharing one bathroom. That was horrible. It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
And wow. I wound up getting a job at Banana Republic and hated it, didn't like it, was folding clothes all the time. And I started to get like this sense of, man, I should really be doing more. Yeah. I should really be just, expanding. And so one day I went on Craigslist and I found an ad that was looking for a video producer. And I had the job in 3 days, and the next thing I knew, my life just started to uptick. I got around, I was working for Grant Cardone. I worked for him for about 5.5 years, and that's where my life changed. I learned about business. I learned about sales. I increased my video production level to like insane, like producing 7 ads a day. That's retarded. Like it's so hard to do. Yeah. And leading up to building a multi-million-dollar ad agency there. And then just this past November, went out on my own, and now I've got 2 companies.
Wow.
So
that is a crazy story.
It's a wild story, man. But there were some rough moments in there for sure.
Wow. But I feel like that has to make it, so much more worth it after I feel like you appreciate everything that you have now even more. And I mean, I can't even imagine, because I haven't gone through anything close to that, but I can't even imagine. It takes such a strong individual, I would think, to not only persist in that, but then to come out on top.
Yeah, I was, I remember I was working at Banana Republic and I made just enough money to rent a room in an apartment. And it's been like a full 1.5 years that I had my own space with warm water. I was sleeping on hardwood floors, and then I had a bed and a shower, and I slept for like 3 days because I was like, this bed feels awesome. I have my own space.
Oh my God.
Even today, like I've got this really awesome condo on the ocean. Like I have 2 cars. I've got cool things happening. I've got business. I have so much that have just turned around, and I never forget like where I was and where I am now. And it makes everything a win, no matter how small.
Yeah, dude, that's such an incredible story. Well, I mean, the story's not even over, dude. It's going to only get better from here.
I know, that's the best part. We're like, I don't know. We're kind of in another chapter here. Who knows what's going to happen now?
Dude, that's so cool. So in regards to the video content and the production and all that, it sounds like you kind of always had a knack for it. So did that just kind of show up out of the blue, and then you're like, wow, I'm actually a lot better than the average individual. Let me, put some effort into this and get really, really good? Or how did that come about?
So what happened was, it was in high school when I really started it, and I was always fascinated with music and video games. Like I was that generation that came up with that kind of experience, and it's kind of geeky, but that's really where it started, because I love the fact that I could participate in an environment that somebody else created with certain intentions. And that was really cool for me. I could like get out of myself and experience something else. And so I got really inspired by some really intense soundtracks and music. And I would never listen to mainstream media. It was always just this instrumental music that was played at specific moments. And then I realized I thought in visual imagery all the time. Like I could hear something and I'd be like, oh man, what would that be? What's going on here? And I would start to imagine what that would be like. And I just kept really developing that through elementary school. And then in high school, we had a project. It was we had to do a film, like a film project for the 1960s. And that was my first interaction with like, okay, we've got information, we've got stories, now we've got to film it and shoot it. And I did both. So it was a group of us. I filmed it, I put it together, I gave it to a group of guys who started editing, and I said, I want to do that. And basically 6 months later, I got involved in the media department there, and I came in and I started pushing buttons and playing with everything. And I realized I love this. I love creating content. I redid all their intros. I acted and did their morning shows, which was like our like internal news program. And I loved it. That's where I was like, oh my God, I'm really good at this.
Yeah.
And I just started creating content. I would download movies and commercials, and I'd recut them and change them and just mess around. And that's how I really learned my skill. I just started playing.
That's awesome. And so then, so it sounds like it's kind of a thing that you always had, and then you just kind of honed it. But so then when you decided to go out on your own, were you able to take a lot of skills that you learned up until that point, or how'd you get to that point? Because I know that's a huge step to go, you're like, I'm at a store like Banana Republic, and then you're like, I'm doing a job for somebody else, and then you're like, I've expanded and helping create, 7 ads a day, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm gonna do this on my own, because that's even scarier, because now there's nobody else but you to have responsibility for anything that happens, good or bad, right? So where did how did that come to be?
Yeah, so that was a very kind of I don't want to use the term anguish ridden, because it wasn't like painful. It was just mentally I had to prep for that. And so I'm super spiritual. I'm a Scientologist, and I know you are too. And I spent so much time on developing myself. Mm-hmm. And as I did that and invested in me and creating a better sense of self-awareness and my ability to see the world around me and navigate it came up, I realized that I had courage and I had skills, and I stopped kind of invalidating my own sense of power, my own abilities. And I said, you know what? I'm doing this here. I'm inspired by all these multimillionaire entrepreneurs and all these people that are super successful. Why am I not doing that? Why am I still an employee? And it's not that being an employee is a negative thing. It's just that I feel like there's a certain kind of hunger that started to build up in me that if I suppressed that anymore, it would have just resulted in complete destruction, and nobody would be happy there. Yeah. So I had to really follow my integrity there in what I knew I was capable of achieving. Yeah. And so for about, 6 months or so, about 6 months before I left, I had the thought, and of course I wanted to be super ethical about it and keep everything straight. And I just started making preparations. Yeah. I excelled at my job. I never slacked off at my job. I worked right up till 6 o'clock the last day with my clients, making sales calls, trying to close business, taking care of everything. Like, I'm not the guy that's like, peace, I'm out. I'm like, no, I'm going to go right to the end, and we're going to do everything we can. And so it became prepping mentally. The courage that was needed to do this, number one, was huge. Because I was disconnecting and going out on my own on a big ship. Like, I was taking my ship out of the dock and I'm going out into this ocean that I don't know what I'm going to encounter. Right. And, getting money ready to go, getting your products ready to go, getting a website ready to go, and just preparing for that big step. And honestly, it was the best decision I ever made in my life. It has led to the ultimate level of freedom that I have always wanted. Yeah. And again, I was invalidating that. I wasn't letting that happen. And when I allowed it to actually go and create on it, it created just this wonderful experience for me every day. Like, I wake up, I go to the ocean, I work out, I come back, I bust my you-know-what till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, and I repeat it again. Yeah. And it gives me more time to really devote to my creativity and building on those aesthetics every single day. So it started with courage, it started with spirituality, and just building that up to a point where I'm ready to do this.
And so for somebody who may not have as much courage as you, but wants to do something on their own, or is like, I feel like that's in me where I need to take that step, what would you say is the preparation process? Because it's kind of scary to go, just quit your job. And they're like, I'm not ready. And that might not even, be the smartest choice. It might be smart to go, is there prep that you would have involved? How much, did you start to save a lot? Did you have somebody else create your own site and stuff? Or how did that, like, if you were to give advice to somebody, what would you say?
So my advice would be learn everything you can to prepare yourself for going, because you're probably not going to have the income to be able to pay for everybody to do things. You got to really make sure that you have at least 3 to 4 months. If you can get more than that, great. Like if you've got millions of dollars and you're going to go do it, awesome. But that's not the case with everyone. It certainly wasn't the case with me. And the cool thing is that I put myself in a position where I was able to learn while I worked. Yeah. And I learned from what other people were doing, what not to do, what was successful, what wasn't successful. And I just mentally notated that and took notes for it. And I just would spend the time every night and build myself and get ready for it. So the prep comes from a multitude of ways. Number one would be get yourself in a position where you can learn from other people. Whether you work for an entrepreneur or you work for a business, just find a way that you can learn from someone else and get all that data that you need so that when you're ready to go, you can do it. Number two, remain ethical on the job. Like, don't slack off just because you have this dream to go build your own thing. Like, that's great, but you're not at that point yet. So do what you're supposed to do that you're being paid to do, but also you're going to have to put a little bit of midnight oil in to build your own thing.
Yeah.
And then when you're ready to go, just get your finances ready. Learn the skills of marketing, learn some web design, learn some basic video production. Just get some skills, because you're eventually going to have to hire people to do that. And you're going to want to know what they're doing when you turn over control like that. So research, preparation, time, and ethics is of the utmost importance. Like, I know situations can be bad for some people. Like you could just be in the wrong spot, and you could be experiencing bullying, or there's this weirdness that's taking place and it's affecting you mentally.
Yeah.
I've been in those situations before, and the way that you just get through that is you got to separate yourself from it, do your job, and know and focus on the bigger picture. Because even if that's going on, yes, I know that it could be extremely painful for you. If you know what you're going for, you can kind of walk through unscathed and just keep going with that dream of yours.
Yeah,
hope that answers your question. I know
that's
I kind of
great advice. No, that's good. You can go on tangents. It's all good.
Yeah, cool.
So since you've been going off, since you have been on your own now for a bit, what have been some of the most unforeseen challenges of wow, I had no idea that I was gonna have to do this. Like, what are a couple of things that stand out?
So I was really fortunate, because where I was working before, I kind of built my own business there. It was really great because I didn't have that much moderation. I mean, I did obviously have reports to do, and I had seniors that I had to report to, but I really was granted the ability to build something. And so I experienced the ups and the downs of that, like, picking the wrong client or aligning myself with the wrong individual. And I would say the most unforeseen thing is just picking the right people to go into business with. Mm-hmm. And it could come across at the beginning as like, oh, this is awesome and this is going to be great. And then as you go, you realize, oh, this might not be a good fit. And it's not that the person is bad, although they could be. You just have to have the awareness level to say, okay, this is really not the purpose line that I'm on and not the direction I want to go. So I would say finding the right people to align with is definitely number one. It's just that kind of unforeseen thing that you're going to have to give some time and explore and see. Number two, money. I mean, you could have all the preparation in the world, and you could be like, oh, we're good for 4 or 5 months. And then you're starting to go and you realize you got to pay for these things. And all of a sudden you're like, I'm out. I got nothing. Yeah. And that happened. And it was terrifying. I was like, oh my God, I'm back to the way I was 6-7 years ago where I had nothing. But I was like, okay, cool. But I still have everything covered. This is okay. I'm going to be all right. And I just outworked the situation. Yeah. So, I thought I was really prepared for that, and I was, but there was a moment where I had to extend myself a little further, and I wasn't quite ready for that. But I totally pulled myself out, and we're in affluence now, and things are moving in the right direction. Basically, in 60 days, I will have to hire people and get an office. That's kind of where we are. But
nice. That's a good problem to have.
That's a good problem. So I've quadrupled the income in the last not even 60 days, just 30 days, and it's just been an amazing ride. So I would say really those two things, and the third would be the mental effects that could have on you. I mean, you could prepare, you could get all the courage you have, but there are still some moments where it is absolutely, did I make the right choice? Was this good? I don't know. Da, 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 da. And just keeping the eye on the purpose is how you get through that moment.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I agree. It's not. I've been reading a book lately, and the author of the book, he says that business is like war without bullets. And I'm like, that's interesting.
It is
in the sense that it's like it's stressful, and you're like, am I gonna die at any moment? Like, like
I could die right now.
I could just die. I could just drop dead. No, but you know what I mean. It's almost like you have to be aware and constantly have amazing discipline and know who your allies are, who you're working with, what your goal is. Like, you slack off for too long, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, we're in trouble.
Yeah, you can't slack off.
Yeah, not at all. So, and I know you touched on like what it is that you do now currently, but maybe if you want to touch a little bit more specifically on what your current two businesses are,
Sure.
And then also, are you going to be staying in this lane, or like what's the next big step for you?
Great question. That's a great question. Yeah. So I have two companies. The first company is Syslo Ventures, and that's just a media production company. So we're doing video production, graphic design, web design. We have a bunch of different packages that we offer. That's just me. Like, that's Robert Syslo. I know how to do that so well. And my eye is to grow that into a multi-million-dollar company by the end of the year. And we're on track to do that, which is awesome. Wow. I mean, I'm a workhorse. I can sell and create and do it all in one day and get everything done. Like, I've just been so trained to do that, that when I have a slow moment for 5 minutes, I'm like, okay, I got to go do something. I just need to go make something. So we focus on production for businesses and influencers and brands and graphic design and web design. And then the second company is called Interview Blueprint. And this company, which is a company that I acquired from a good friend of mine, is focused on helping people get jobs. So there's a little bit of my experience in there and the data from the guy who wrote the book and the content. But we really collaborated to deliver a fully rounded training that takes people from how do I get a dream job? Like, what does a job look like? What's the scenario there? How do I talk? How do I dress? Who should I go after? How do I follow up? All the way to some entrepreneur tips and success tips that you can apply immediately. Like, it's a very well-rounded course, which we sell. It's fully digital, online. We have books, webinars, and things like that. So those are the two priorities that I have right now. And it's great to kind of play the CEO in both and the sales guy and everything in there. The next step that I'm really looking to do is to fully explode both of those companies to a point where we have a full-fledged staff going in there every single day and moving that up to at least a six-figure income per month. We're about halfway there right now, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I really want to take this to the next level because that's what you're supposed to do. I mean, I'm all about going like this, straight up and vertical all the time. So the next step would be to get those to a point where we have a staff, and then I will eventually get back into the advertising space. I have a probably in about a year or so, get that moving again and open that back up, because that's always been my dream. Like, that's my true passion. Like, how do you communicate to an audience and help them? So that's a little bit down the road.
Cool. Dude, it sounds like you got your hands full, but I love it. I love the expansion aspect. I'm in the middle of that too, trying to open up a couple practices, trying to do some other things with supplements, some fitness stuff.
I see you going, man. You're jacked. This guy's jacked. He's just ripped.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
He's freaking Greek god over there. So
speaking of fitness, I noticed you've been working out a bit.
I've really been throwing it together.
So aside from the paddleboarding and stuff, like, what is your routine looking like lately?
Yeah, so the fitness routine is really stepped up a notch. I do 2 workouts a day. So I wake up in the mornings. I do kind of like a hit, sprint, run, walk kind of a workout for about 20 minutes before I go paddleboard for a couple miles.
Nice.
And then I go back towards the evening and I focus on weightlifting. So we do heavier weights, but slow, controlled movement with low reps for maybe 3 or 4 sets. So I've tried so many different things, and I just said, let me just go back to the basics of what I did when I was a lifeguard in New Jersey. Like because I was super fit back then, and I went back to the basics, and it's just working.
Yeah.
I don't work out long. They're probably about 20, 30-minute sessions each combined.
Yeah.
Paddleboarding is just like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. We could just stay out here for an hour. So sometimes that's an hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it just really became focused on making sure that I'm in the most peak condition I can be in, because I have a lot to do during the day. I've got meetings, podcasts, I've got production to do. I mean, you would think that sitting here and designing and writing scripts and doing video production is easy and doesn't take a lot of energy out of you, but I'm done. I'm done by the end of the night. It's so much creative.
It's a lot of mental energy.
It's so much mental energy
on. Yeah.
It's like, so you have to just be really fit and change the diet up completely. Like we're basically on a protein vegetable diet with no carbs right now. I carb cycle a little bit, but mostly focused on that with no coffee. I don't drink any more coffee. I don't do that anymore. So yeah.
Nice. And so what's the best piece of advice that you've received regarding health and fitness so far?
I would say so I've tried a bunch of different things. Like I've done juice diets where I've just lost a ton of weight, but I lost muscle mass and I was hungry all the time. Like I was starving and I was like, this is so not sustainable to me. I'm a steak guy. I want my bacon. I want my food. So I needed to figure out a way to get that together. So I think I researched full carnivore diets and paleo diets, and then I found a happy medium. And I really understood the difference between, like what lean meat does and how to kind of work that into my diet. Now I'm no expert. I'm still trying to get that straight, but
yeah. And I'll help you out.
I know you will. But that kind of, I found that intermittent fasting mixed in with that and the workouts has just been tremendous for me. Yeah. I've got instant results. I've got things going. I'm the best, in the best shape I've ever been so far, but there's still a little bit more work to be done. But that would be the best information, just getting the diet correct with the meat and the protein and the vegetables and that intermittent fasting cycled in with some crazy workouts that wouldn't even be considered workouts, more fun stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be in the gym all the time,
Yeah. I mean, like 80% of it is your diet. If you get that under control, then you're going to be, heading in the right direction. 100%. Yeah. So that's, if you can get that under control and then you have a good, you're able to mix up your workouts, a good routine, then you'll be well on your way. And it takes a little bit of time because a lot of people want that quick. They do a juice fast, like I want to stay skinny, and then they go back to eating what they were eating before, and they're like, "Why did I gain the weight back?" It's not sustainable to do those crazy crash type of diets.
Yeah.
And let's see. Oh yeah, how's that Alfa Romeo treating you, dude? I like cars. I like that little guy. How's that thing going? It's a beast.
Man, I will never, even when I'm making millions of dollars, I will never sell this car. I will never sell it because number one, there's a special moment there because it's my first ultra sports car.
Yeah.
And it's loud, it's fast, it's red, it's carbon fiber, it screams, and it's tiny and small, and it just gets around, and it
can park anywhere.
Pretty much. There's no power steering in that thing, by the way. There is no power steering.
That's a workout right there.
So it's just you got to when you're going 2 miles an hour, it's like my biceps are getting jacked just from the car. But it's fun, man. I mean, it's just, I like adrenaline. I like speed. And I picked that car because, and some people are not going to like what I'm about to say, but I feel like everybody has BMWs, everybody has Jaguars, everybody has Mercedes, everybody has Range Rovers. And I was like, what is something that nobody has that is just super cool? And lo and behold, Alfa Romeo 4C comes across my path. And I'm like, I have found you. You are mine. Let's get this and get it done. So that's me though. That. I don't do the things that you would consider I just don't follow the group. You know what I mean? I love groups. Yeah. I'm like, I need to be myself in there.
Yeah. 100%. And a car, I think, is a good extension of your personality. And I love to have a car that is me, because then I'm just like, this is fun. I get a smile every time I'm in it and I drive it. So I'm a car guy myself. So I
Yeah,
totally.
and that was a reward, man. Like I don't take vacations. I don't go out and party. I really don't spend my money that much. That was like a, hey, you did a really good job. Let me
Yeah.
reward you for this awesome thing. So
Yeah.
that's alpha right there.
That's awesome. So I want to kind of wrap up the audio part first, but where can people find you on social, or what's the best way if anyone wants to reach out or follow along in your journey? How do they do that?
Totally. So you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm just at Robert Syslo Jr., my full name with the junior at the end, and you can get me there.
And
I'm
Instagram
crazy
too,
on
right?
Instagram. Yes, did I
Okay.
say that? Okay,
I don't
Instagram.
know. Yeah.
I bang on my Instagram stories and my live feed like a
Yeah.
madman. Like I probably do it too much, but I don't care. I like it because it's fun. So, yeah,
That's how you got to do it. All right,
yeah.
dude. Well, awesome. Everybody go follow Robert. The dude will be blowing up soon. As you know, I'm going to be following along. I'm glad that you came on. Let's get to the video segment because I want to
Okay,
hear about this crazy story. I hope you have a good one for me.
sure.
Always. Okay, good. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to YouTube. Subscribe to our accounts and comment below. You can also share the podcast. Any questions, hit us up. Audio segment. We are out. Let's go to the video only.
Peace.
All right.
Okay,
We're,
cool.
we're in the video segment. So let's hear this. Let's hear this story.
Oh man, I gotta like really. I have too many to pick, so I'm trying to think which one would be like. What would is it? What would be like the ideal scene that you think your audience would love to hear about? Like,
What I think they would want to hear just something that's obviously inspirational possibly, but also just crazy. Like, I cannot believe you survived that. Or like,
well,
something
I'll
in
go
Trinidad
back.
and Tobago, who knows?
Yeah, I'm gonna go and elaborate on that kind of little period where it was like completely intense and crazy. So,
Yeah, let's
uh,
do that.
so there was a point in my life where do I need to do like an intro or do you want me to just go into it?
You can just go into it. If I need to edit it, I will, but I think
All
we're
right, cool.
good.
So there was a point in my life where I had, they would call it post-traumatic stress disorder. I was in a horrible relationship that just like, I had no data about relationships. I had no data about people. And I experienced complete anxiety and panic attacks for about 8 months straight, where it was just completely uncontrollable. And I
Wow.
suffered from anxiety for probably about, I don't know, 3 years after that. And every day, like I just could not relax. I was always like, just like, this is how I lived. But I learned how to kind of like hide it, but nobody
Yeah.
knew that I was going through like, craziness all the time. So anyway, so it drove me so bad that I wound up homeless. And I had a job working as a computer technician in Los Angeles. And what I ended up doing was I wasn't happy there. So I was like, follow your dream. And I quit my job with $800 in my bank account. And this was after I had come back. So I had moved out of my apartment, gone home, tried to rest, didn't work out there, went back to LA. And I wound up homeless. Like I had $800 that went to food and that quickly disappeared. And about a week later, I'm finding myself sitting in the back seat of my car behind my old apartment complex, texting my friend saying, I have no idea how I'm going to survive. Like, I really don't know how I'm going to climb out of this hole. Like, I have nothing. I have my car, which was beat up. It was falling apart. My windows didn't even roll down. And I'm on this street sleeping in my back seat. And I'm like, I could go to jail just for doing this. Like, this is totally not even, like, you're not even allowed to do that. And so I did that for about, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks. And I was showering over in the, in Venice Beach and stuff. They have like the houses shower and stuff. And so that's where I was like trying to maintain a semblance of an appearance. And I went to my friend and I said, look, I begged her. I said, I cannot sleep like this anymore. Like, can I just get a week to sort things out? I'll sleep on your floor. Just, I cannot sleep in my car anymore. And she said, sure. So she gave me a week. And I had linked up with this group in Trinidad and Tobago. By the way, how long do you want this to be? Can this be?
Because a few minutes. Yeah, okay. I mean.
So anyway, I linked up with this group in Trinidad who gave me at least some semblance of acknowledgement that I was okay and that I was going to make it and da-da-da-da-da-da. And they suggested that I go down there to work with them, just get out of where I was, change everything, and do some work and get productive. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I went down and, it was okay for a little while, but then that fell apart too. I ended up getting fired because I was sleeping on the floor. I was working and not getting paid. I was eating bologna sandwiches, taking cold showers. Like, it was a horrible, like, I just went from one bad experience to the next, to the next, to the next.
Damn.
And so I'm laying there and I'm like, I got to do something.
Yeah.
So Trinidad is known as like the hub. It is the central hub of the Caribbean, and it's the gateway both to the United States and to South America. So the largest advertising agencies in the world had offices there.
Oh, wow.
And so this was my first experience knocking doors, and I didn't know how to do it. I just went into every single ad agency, like Saatchi & Saatchi was there, BBCO was there, and I went in and I'm like, I need a job. And here comes an American, white boy, saying, I need a job because I don't have work in a third world country. Like, the whole thing was like, what is happening? How did this guy, what is this?
Wow.
And luckily enough, I had a good family that helped me out. And, I still communicate with them today, and they linked me up with this guy who ran what we would call like a Radio Shack down there. And, I'm surviving on bologna sandwiches, man. Like, I'm surviving on the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And, so I was like, hey, I can do graphics. Like, I'll do video, whatever. Just give me a computer and I'll work. And I started to work and I made a little money. I could eat. I remember I bought this gyro. It was like freaking lamb and cheese. And it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I could buy clothes. And it was about a month or two in that my visa ran out. And we're like, okay, you have to leave the country.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, what am I going to do? So he's like, okay, I'll get you to Miami. And there's a job for you in Miami I need you to do. And I was like, okay, great. So I fly back to Fort Lauderdale Airport. I'm all nervous and everything. And of course, when we land, the plane like does a weird thing.
Yeah.
So that just adds to it. But I land and I look around, I'm going through customs and I'm seeing all these families and these, these kids and these girls and these guys, and they're all like happy. And I'm like, my life sucks. Like, this just sucks. So long story short, he helped me, the guy that I was working for helped me get into a hostel in Miami Beach, in South Beach. I was living there, surviving on an allowance of $100 a week, and we were having an exchange for that.
Yeah.
And so there's 6 guys in one room and one bathroom, and I'm living here. And all these people are like, we're going and partying because it's vacation. And I'm like, I don't know how to survive.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then I got a job at Banana Republic, which everybody pretty much knows the rest of the story. But I had, I was folding clothes, and I had this like really powerful transformational moment. 2 of them. The first was when I got my room inside of this apartment, and I swear to God, I laid on this bed that was myself, and I was like, thank you. Like, finally, I have a bed. And I took a shower. I'm like, thank you, I have a shower. And I just started taking care of myself. Like, I was like, brush your teeth, shave, go for a run, eat, just start doing the basics. And I started doing that. And then I was like, I need to go get more. And then I landed this job with this huge company, which I found on Craigslist, and it was a video guy. And I said, I don't want to do what I'm not supposed to do anymore. Yeah. And I just kind of like declared that to the world. And I got a job as this video producer and built this huge guy into something that's awesome. Was a part of that and built my own agency. Live in $1 million condo on the ocean, driving out for a Mayo 4C. Now I'm this entrepreneur business owner. So it was like life was going, and then it went, and it's still just going straight up. So that's my crazy survival horror story.
Yeah, dude.
There's still more horror in there that I didn't put in there, but that's pretty horrific.
Oh, man. Well, dude, thank you for sharing, of course. And, thank you for being on. I'll let you know when this thing goes up. But you are awesome. you're an inspiration to me, anybody else who's listening, watching, that you can do whatever it is that you want. You just, got to push through and just stay really disciplined and keep your life together and, surround yourself with amazing people as best you can. And anyone can do it. I know it's cliche, but it's like you see it around you. And I know that this will inspire some people. So I appreciate you being on for sure. So I'm going to end the video segment here. Guys, thank you for watching. Robert, thank you for being on. Anything else that you want to say? Some last words to anyone?
No, I'm good, man. Thank you so much.
Right.
Just great power, and just follow Sterling. He's doing some great work.
I appreciate that. All right, guys. Thank you so much.